Good evening again, everyone. I'm going to have a few words, opening remarks before we go into the meeting. First of all, welcome again, one and all, Kiwanis Club of Kingston. This evening, we have as our guest speaker, we're very gracious to have King's Counsel, fellow counsel Andre Earle, who's going to be discussing with us the new Sexual Harassment Act and how it will affect our workplaces as well as our daily lives, and hopefully how it will make a difference to how we conduct ourselves here in Jamaica. Well-needed form of legislation, and the question now becomes how will it change the culture that we currently have and improve our culture, so to speak. But I'll leave the introduction to Mr. Earle later on, but welcome, Andre. I'm glad to have you here, and we look forward to your presentation later on this afternoon. I know we have a limited time frame, so we're going to try and move quickly ahead so that we can give you as much space and opportunity to share your thoughts and your thoughts on the topic as it comes up. So I just want to mention a couple of things. First of all, thank you one and all for our recently held annual charity ball. Those of you Kiwanians and guests who attended and supported us, the ball was a success, and it was only by any measure, and it was only a success due to your contributions and your help. So thank you for all who participated. Secondly, I was just as a housekeeping matter, just to remind you that because our meetings are every Tuesday, next week is going to be Christmas Eve, so there'll be no meeting. And the following Tuesday is going to be New Year's Eve, so there'll be no meeting. So our next gathering of Kiwanis Club of Kingston online will be on January 7th. But that does not mean that our activities are going to be are halted for the Christmas season. As usual, we will have a number of activities going on, which we will share with you. The first one that I bring to your attention is on Christmas Day. We're going to our Community Services and our Human and Spiritual Values Committee. We're going to do our usual Christmas Day activities. So that means we're going to the Ozanan home, as well as the Salvation Army Nest, to be sharing Christmas carols, as well as gifts to those persons, less fortunate persons on Christmas Day. So if you'd like to participate in that, please reach out to myself or DLG Willie to get more information, and we will share with you more information as that comes up. So Christmas Day, we do have an activity. And also in terms of fundraising, we do have our benefit performance of Basil Dawkins' new play called First Lady, and that's going to be on Saturday, January 4th at Little Theatre. Tickets are $3,500. So after you've gone to your Vibes Cartel concert on New Year's Eve and you want to have some comedic relief going into the new year, Saturday, January 4th, First Lady, Basil Dawkins play, Kiwanis Club of Kingston. Please support us. All the Kiwanians should have a ticket, so you can buy them $3,500 each. And with that, that's my opening remarks. I will say something closer to the end, but let's go into the meeting itself. I think IPP Newton is traveling, so we were unable to do the welcome, but I will quickly ask the visiting clubs to identify themselves, because DP Stu says we have a few more minutes. I'm going to start with those who are outside of Jamaica who may be joining us this evening for a meeting. Is there any Kiwanian clubs or non-Kiwanians who are joining us this evening? Can you open your mic and just tell us where you're from, please?
I am President Marjorie Carter from Kiwanis Club of the Garden Parish. At the moment, I'm not in Jamaica. I'm in Florida, but I'm still participating.
I'm glad to have you, President Marjorie.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Are you with are there any of your club members with you, or is it just yourself at this time? Okay. I think, all right, President Marjorie, thank you. I think I see Kiwanis Club of Fort Lauderdale. Please go ahead and with your introduction.
Lauderdale, yes. And good evening, everyone. My voice is kind of going, but if you can hear me, I am past governor. I'm Celia Earle, Kiwanis Club of Lauderdale Lakes. And I'm here to support King's Counsel Andre Earle, who is my cousin. And I should add that my daddy, Jonathan Earle, used to be a member of your club. Kiwanis Club of Kingston in the 70s and early 80s. He actually was a member.
Okay.
So, but it's nice to be with all of you tonight.
I'm glad that you could be joining us also. Celia, and I hope, family notwithstanding, I'm sure you'll be entertained and informed.
Oh, I'm definitely sure. And I'm just letting you know the reason there are not other members from my club is because our club meeting night. So everybody is there. Our meeting starts at, so everybody is there tonight. So that is the only reason. But I gave that up for.
Good reason. Say no more. As young people would say less.
Okay, exactly. But, and thank you for having me.
Sure. Glad to accommodate you and glad to have your presence. All right. So we do have 2 overseas Kiwanian clubs. Any other Kiwanians from outside of Jamaica? If not, let's move to Division 25. Do we have any Kiwanians from Division 25?
Good evening, President Stephen.
Good evening, Director Crystal. I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Wonderful. I have 2 members on so far from the Kiwanis Club of Montego Bay. Thanks for the invite. Looking forward to a great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Same to you and your members. That's Kiwanis Club of Montego Bay. Anybody else from Division 25? If not, we're going to move to Division 24. Any Kiwanians from Division 24 with us?
You have I'm from Division 25.
Yes.
Right.
DP Dorette. Yes,
this is DP Dorette. There are 3 of us on tonight, and I'm sure we learn a lot. And thanks for having us.
And your club, please?
Oh, sorry, Kiwanis Club of Coastal Trelawney.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, DP Dorette. We're still in Division 25. If we missed out anybody, now is the time before we move to 25. President Marjorie,
one second, President. Sorry, I just want to please, I'm asking everybody to keep your mics closed until you are about to introduce yourself. Please, we're getting some negative feedback. Thanks.
Yeah, I think it's President Marjorie.
Yes, let me, sorry.
Yes, just mute.
Okay.
It happens to the best of us. Don't worry.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
We're in Division 24. Going once, twice.
President Marjorie, Kiwanis Club of Garden Parish, Ocho Rios.
Okay, President Marjorie.
I haven't seen anyone else online.
Okay. Well, if they come, you can add it to the chat and so we can recognize them. And everybody this applies to, please, we want to make it as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions for Mr. Earle, you can also include it in the chat and we will have a short question and answer period later on. Division 23, do any Kiwanians from Division 23 West?
Good evening, President Stephen. This is President Henry from the Kiwanis Club of Portmore. Presently, we are 16 numbers, and I know that others will be joining. This is a very interesting topic, and other members will be joining because we are interested in it. Thanks for the invitation.
You're most welcome, President Henry. And your club members also, Portmore in the house. Still in Division 23 West, 23 East.
Oh, the East.
Go ahead.
Mark.
Mark, I hear you. Go ahead. You're recognized.
Mark with the Kiwanis Club of Guys Hill.
Guys Hill. And in your delegation or just yourself, Mark?
Well, I am just the only one I see in already. I think others are going to join later on.
Okay, join later on. Okay, look forward to their presence and thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
23 East, we're going to move, anybody in 23 East, we're going to move to 23 Central.
President Stephen, this is
Hello.
President Claudine from the
Hello,
Kiwanis Club
President
of West
Claudine.
St. Andrew. Always a privilege to be joining your club and to be sharing in your meeting. There
Wow.
are 9 of us from West St. Andrew on your meeting at this time. We're looking forward to an interesting presentation.
Thank you, President Claudine, and to the rest of West St. Andrew. We're always happy to have your presence and your support.
Thank you.
And all the best.
I must say she has a radio voice.
Yes, she has a very soothing tone to her vocals. So
Thank you.
Look at media as a future in media if Kiwanis.
Oh boy, a little late for that, but hey.
Go ahead, PD Ralston.
No, sir, go ahead.
No, okay. All right. 23 East. We're still in 23 East. Any other clubs? Any other guests who are non-Kiwanians who are joining us this evening? Okay.
Hello, yes.
Yes.
This is I'm an attorney at law and a mediator, and so I'm very interested in this topic and also here to support my brother at law, Andre.
Yes. Okay, Ms. Claire Miller, thank you.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
You can be all, if you enjoy the meeting, make sure that there's lots of opportunities to join Kiwanis. There are quite a few clubs that are here. So this is what we do in addition to our charity work. So I hope that you're so inspired.
Yes, thank you.
Indeed. All right. If
President Stephen.
Yes, sir. I see you, DLG Keith. Go ahead.
Yes, I believe you should still be in Central.
I am.
Well, I'm a dual member, but I'll introduce 23 CSO. I know Stony Hill is also in the house, and I'll allow them who have our LG with us as well. We'll do that separately. All right. So for 23 CSO,
yes,
we're 5 in number, including our President Eurydice. Her voice is going, so I'm taking the lead on introducing the team.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so so it's both Central Surrey Online and Stony Hill that you're introducing, correct?
Well, let me introduce Stony Hill. We also have 5 members. Our LG Sharon is in the house.
Okay, welcome LG Sharon. Welcome.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Any other also fellow counsel? So she's wearing multiple hats this evening. So welcome LG Sharon.
Yes, I'm also looking forward to the meeting and to support my colleague. And shout out to my other colleague, Claire. Nice having them both on. But in relation to Stony Hill, I don't think I'm the only one on. I'm not sure who else is on, but I believe DP Althea is also on and others. So greetings from the Kiwanis Club of Stony Hill.
Yes, and I did see Anthea earlier. So welcome to Stony Hill members. Glad to have you as usual.
PDT.
Sorry, go PDT Ralston, what's that?
And PDT Ralston.
Of course. I don't know, she forgot you yourself. All right, we want to get into our main presentation. So it's a slightly abridged version this evening because our guest speaker has other commitments. So unless there is anybody else
Good
who would
evening,
like
everyone.
to...
Good evening, everyone.
Go ahead, Keon.
Green.
Hello,
Keon Green from Worthington, Kingston.
Yes.
And I'm also in the capacity of one of Mr. Earle's associates at Earle and Wilson. So I'm wearing 2 hats today.
All right, welcome.
Support.
Welcome, Keon, and thank you for your support. I'm sure Mr. Earle will appreciate that. Okay, is there anybody else? Final call out. Go ahead. VP Almarie, go ahead.
Yes, Garden Parish, Ocho-Rios.
Ocho-Rios, yes. Oh, you're saying you're representing Garden Parish of Ocho-Rios. Welcome. And to you, and I assume your delegation also, VP. So we have St. Anne, we have Ocho-Rios and as well as Garden Parish of St. Anne in the house. Welcome all. If there is no other persons and guests, I'll just do a blanket welcome to everybody. Thank you for attending, and we know that there are other places that you could be, so we're glad that you're here with us this evening, and we hope that you enjoy our presentation from the Kiwanis Club of Kingston. And with that note, I'm going to pass to our, is it UDP Stu or PDT Ralston?
You can go ahead and introduce PDT Ralston.
Okay, so we have past district trustee Ralston Nunes, sorry, I'm getting his name mixed up, who is going to now introduce our guest speaker. So over to you, PDT Ralston.
Thank you, President. Am I being heard properly?
We're hearing you loud and clear.
President, and
seeing you also, yes. Go ahead.
It is my pleasure to introduce you this evening to Mr. Andre Earle, attorney at law and King's Counsel, and is not to be mixed up with any other Earle. The one we know is a artist, but our guest presenter, through training, gives the utmost for the highest. He currently practices in the firm Earle and Wilson, but prior to that was with Rattray, Patterson Rattray as a partner in charge of litigation. He graduated from the Norman Manley Law School in 1989 and holds a Bachelor's of Laws with upper second-class honors. At the time when so much is being said regarding integrity, Mr. Earle is described as an integrity-focused litigator and has over 30 years' experience in civil litigation under his belt. A notary public, Mr. Earle is a certified mediator who tutors at the Norman Manley Law School and hosts the important and instructive talk show, Legal and Public Affairs. He is indeed a highly sought after speaker, and so we are very fortunate to have him with us this evening to enlighten us on Jamaica's Sexual Harassment Act, which is a protection and prevention act that was enacted in 2021 by a signature of the Governor General Patrick Allen. A very serious problem, as data show that 1 in every 4 Jamaican women report being sexually harassed during their lifetime. But I found no information regarding men, but I'm sure that this presentation, which I'm sure is comprehensive and complete, may give us some information. You know, fortunately for a guest speaker, or it could be for myself, we have certain commonalities because he's a deacon at the Bethel Baptist Church where I attended in former Sunday school years. And he's also a graduate of the Lions Den. You know that tremendous institution on Redlands Road, Calabar High School. A true lion at heart like myself, he answers the call. Here, sir, near and far at the sound of Calabar. So fellow Kiwanians, sit tight, buckle up for this ride. But first, help me to welcome our learned and erudite presenter, Mr. Andre, the original Earle. Thank you.
Oh, he loved that.
According to Dave Ginn, don't ever question the value of volunteers. Noah's Ark was built by volunteers. The Titanic was built by professionals. President Stephen, distinguished President Stewart, past district trustee Ralston, other Kiwanians, local and international, family, including my sister, Dr. Sharon Earle Edwards, colleagues, friends, including from the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth, and Information, and co-workers, church brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Please allow me to thank past district trustee Ralston for his most kind and warm introduction. I see that he went to an excellent school. Thanks so much to Jamaica's pioneering club, the Kiwanis Club of Kingston, for your gracious invitation to be your guest speaker this evening. I must seize the opportunity to congratulate you on your 60th anniversary, celebrated in March this year. 6 decades makes you almost as old as independent Jamaica. And my uncle, as you heard, Jonathan Earle, Dr. Jonathan Earle of blessed memory, was a member of your distinguished club in the 1970s. So there's some kind of symbiotic relationship between myself and your distinguished club. So I salute you with both hands on this, your celebration of your 60th anniversary. Finally, President Stephen, with your leave and the kind patience of this wonderful virtual audience, please allow me to extend a special welcome to my dear cousin Celia, Dr. Celia Earle, joining us from Florida, who is Charter President, Distinguished of the Kiwanis Club of Lauderdale Lakes, as you had heard, but she was also not only the first Black female Lieutenant Governor of the Florida District, but also the first Black female Governor of the District of Florida, Cayman Islands, and Turks and Caicos. So thanks very much for joining, Celia. I really appreciate it. So going to get into the main topic now and ask that I be given Sherry.
Yeah, you have permission. I put you as a co-host.
Okay. Not on this one. Perhaps you saw my name elsewhere.
Sorry.
But yes. But
let me double check.
Yeah. We're going to get into this topic.
I see Earle.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Maybe I got mixed up with the Earls.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. This one as well.
Okay.
I see now.
Okay.
So,
See now, Maurice.
Oh, please remember to mute. Please remember to mute your mics. I don't want to mute the wrong Earl. If that was the case.
Right.
Oh, that's Olive McNaughton.
Other Earl is muted.
Okay.
All right. So are you all seeing my screen?
Yes, we're seeing it now.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Stuart. So I started off with a quote from Miss Anita Hill, who back in the day was a legal intern for someone who later became a judge of the United States Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas. And there was an issue regarding sexual harassment, and you may recall this story back in the 90s where she had to attend an inquiry chaired at the time by Senator Joe Biden, current president of the United States. And essentially she had a warm time. And she had this quote: we need to turn the question around to look at the harasser, not the target. We need to be sure that we can go out and look anyone who is a victim of harassment in the eye and say, you do not have to remain silent anymore. So that is the quote that I want to start with in relation to this, because it's a new day in Jamaica with this act. I'm going to be hearing a lot more about it and why people will feel emboldened to speak up more. It's no longer going to be kept quiet. So the discussion this evening is navigating the landscape of sexual harassment. But let's start off with a little icebreaker, shall we? And you can just type your answers in the chat. First person, I need you to guess this tune and also put the name of the artist. Tune and artist. Here we go.
What you need to, you know I got it too.
Aretha Franklin.
Aretha Franklin, yes, in the chat, everybody says Aretha. She has two names. I know you're accustomed to using the first name in Kiwanis, but Aretha Franklin, respect, correct. All right, here we go again.
Sometimes I wanna die, it feels like no one cares for me, and it's evident that something must be wrong with me. I'm not as happy as I seem to be. The long showers I take don't wash away the memories.
Queen
Why
Africa.
do I have to face these tragedies? We go through struggles in life. I'm aware to have my daddy touching me. That's just not fair. Stop him.
Final one.
I will survive, keep on surviving. I'm a survivor. I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna stop.
Destiny's Child.
I'm a survivor. I'm gonna make it. I will survive, keep on surviving.
Yes, Destiny's Child.
Yeah, Destiny.
Aretha Franklin, respect. Queen Africa, Daddy, Don't Touch Me, and Destiny's Child, Survivor. Yes, and you're correct, Beyonce was a part of that group. So that's what we're talking about. Respect for our fellow human beings, asking people not to invade our private space, and in some instances, surviving what can be a terrible ordeal. This act is well known as the Sexual Harassment Act in Jamaica, but the correct name is the Sexual Harassment Protection and Prevention Act 2021. The Sexual Harassment Protection and Prevention Act, but it's well known for ease of reference as the Sexual Harassment Act. And as you heard the President say earlier, this act has in fact been passed. There's no question about it. It is now the law in Jamaica. It was passed on the 2nd of November 2021, and it came into force on the 3rd of July 2023, at which time we were all given 12 months to ensure that we have in place our sexual harassment policies. This is a written document, not an understanding, not practice, but a written document, or a document, I should say, that is required by virtue of the act. And so the question I want you to start asking yourselves now is, are you in compliance with the act by having in place your written sexual harassment policy? It should have been completed by the 3rd of July 2024. So if you haven't done it yet, it means you have some work to do. And there is a particular way in which it is supposed to be framed. You can get assistance in framing it. That assistance is available. And we're going to talk about who, because some of you are asking yourselves, so who is Andre talking about? Who needs to this sexual harassment policy? Now, it may be for those listening abroad who live abroad, that doesn't apply to you, but certainly for those in Jamaica, including those who are visiting temporarily. I heard some names earlier, who are visiting overseas temporarily, but live in Jamaica. It is a requirement. And so we have to look at that and make sure that we are in compliance, because a breach could land you in trouble. What is sexual harassment? It's making any unwelcome sexual advances towards a person by another person. Any unwelcome sexual advances. So, gentlemen on the platform, may I ask you a question? This is for my gentlemen listening only. You are in a group of men. A young lady passes down the road in front of your group. And one of the men in your group, not you, says as the young lady passes by, "Baby doll, Give me a struggle for your free now. Type in the chat, is that sexual harassment? Gentlemen only. I think I know what the ladies would say, but gentlemen only. So DLG Keith says yes, Chris Robinson says yes, Ralston says yes, Desmond says yes, Samsung says yes, Robert, yes. All right. Is there anybody, any gentleman in the group who thinks, no, that's not sexual harassment? Could you just put that in for me, please? Any gentleman who thinks, no, it's not sexual harassment? Okay. But I'm very happy to hear that it's, oh, so DP Stewart says no, and Donovan Morgan says dependent on if it's welcome or not. Well, for the purposes of this discussion, let's assume it's not welcome, Donovan. But DP Stewart says no. So it's interesting that DP Stewart says no. So DP Stewart, let me ask you a question. Let me spin it a little bit. This question is for DP Stewart, and you can type the response, DP Stewart. You are the person now passing a group of men, and one of the men hails you and says, boss man, give me a struggle off of your frame now. Is that sexual harassment? You can type it in the chat, DP Stewart. Samsung, you say yes, but I want to hear.
I don't know how to answer that.
I want to hear from DP Stewart.
Can I say the reason why I said no is because
no, man, no. I want to hear the second one. You say
the second one.
Yeah. Give me a struggle off of your frame now is what a young man says to you. Is that sexual harassment? You're unsure?
I think it sounds like sexual harassment, but then if that is sexual harassment, in the first case would have to be sexual harassment.
All right. The point I'm getting here, and sorry to single you out, DP Stewart, but the point I'm trying to get at here is that we have to remember now that this is something that is gender neutral, sexual harassment, and we can be affected by it. So we have to bear that in mind, that what we may previously have considered is not something which is necessarily sexual harassment, can be. And so we have to bear that in mind. All right, so let me move it along because I know we have limited time. So it's the unwelcome sexual advance. And what is a sexual advance? It can be physical contact of a sexual nature, a demand or request for sex or sex favors, or making sexual suggestions or remarks or innuendos. And it also includes showing pornography or displaying images of a sexual nature or any other physical, gestural, verbal, nonverbal, or visual conduct of a sexual nature. It includes as well physical harassment, unwanted pinching, patting, touching, kissing, groping, hugging, which has clear sexual undertones. And again, gentlemen, let me just pause to say, you know this already as much as I do, but some females don't like to be hugged, you know. They don't assume. I know Jamaica tends to be a warm, hugging type society, but some females don't like it. They don't want any male hugging them. And so we have to respect, remember that Aretha Franklin, we have to respect the space. But the forms of sexual harassment continue, can be verbal, sexually suggestive or explicit jokes, or somebody commenting on the appearance. Boy, you know, I like what you do to me when you wear that dress, or your bottom looks nice in those pants, things like that. You have to be very careful. You may think it's a compliment that you are communicating, but it may not be welcome. And so you may find it lands on the side of an unwelcome sexual advance. You have nonverbal, gestural harassment, winks, licking of lips. I'm going to come back to winks a little later. Gestures with your hands, fingers, legs. All of these constitute or can constitute a form of sexual harassment and a sexual advance. It can consist of unwanted invitations. Celia, you want to go with me this weekend? I'm inviting you to the movies. She says no. Next weekend, you want to go with me to the movies? She says no. The following weekend, can we go to dinner? No. Following weekend, I'm inviting you over to my house. Things like that that kind of persistence can be, especially when it is unwanted and you want this date, can be considered harassment. And you have to be mindful of that. There is also clearly written, graphic, visual, or audio harassment. Landline telephones, cellular phones, the display of pornographic materials, obscene or sexually explicit language, what I want to do to you, what I want to say to you, where I want to be with you, etc., etc. Those are forms of sexual harassment. Quid pro quo. This form of sexual harassment is recognized where harassers use a position of power and authority to negotiate job benefits, employment, re-employment, continued employment. So if I am going to go ahead and give Claire a job on condition that Claire has to let off something sexually for me, that's what you call the quid pro quo. And it happens. It happens a lot. There is a particular organization in Jamaica which shall remain nameless, where one of the top managers extended this particular quid pro approach beyond the realms of decency or reasonableness. Had arrangements where he was promoting, because of the position in which he was promoting persons to managerial positions on condition that they were going to have sex with him. And at one point, information is that he had 3 or 4 women in the organization. And that led to his unfortunate separation from the organization. Yes, he was separated. And separated in circumstances where he was in the HR department. And I know some of you HR practitioners are online now, hearing me. This person was in the HR department that owns the sexual harassment policy at the organization, yet he was one of those breaching it in terms of what it was he was doing in terms of his promotions. So it happens, and it's a reality. There is a case going on currently at the University of the West Indies, and the reason why I can speak about it, I'm not in the case, but the reason I can speak about it is because it has been publicly reported on in our Daily Gleaner more than once. And it involves a senior lecturer who allegedly had 1 female in his office and invited a 2nd female into his office. And when she came in, he dropped his pants and asked her, the 2nd female, to flog him. in front of the first female. So these are the allegations, and I stress allegation because, as you all know, we're entitled to the presumption of innocence. So unless it is proven otherwise, he is to be presumed as innocent. But these are the allegations. And so that is what happened. It is currently being dealt with at the university. Some people say not going fast enough, but it is an issue. So one of the reasons why I cite that example is that you notice he didn't ask the first woman to flog him. It's the second woman he asked to flog him. But the complainant is the first woman, because this request was done in her presence, made in her presence, and she, the first woman, is the one who felt very uncomfortable with it. And the act makes that point. It doesn't have to be something that is said directly to the first person. It can be something that is said to someone, but in the hearing of the person. And that person who has heard it is feeling uncomfortable. So that is one of the things that one needs to bear in mind as we look at this whole matter. Who can be sexually harassed? Both genders. Now we're accustomed to talking about sexual harassment, where it occurs that the man sexually harasses the woman. But the reality is that you can have it other ways. So a man can sexually harass a woman. A woman can sexually harass a man. Ladies, are you hearing me? A female can sexually harass a male. A male can sexually harass another male. And a female can sexually harass another female. So it is gender neutral. And it's important that we pay special attention to that. Where does the act apply? Now, it can be a place used by organization members regularly. The act defines an institution as including a place used by organization, members of an organization from time to time. What does that include? Church, religious institutions, yes. Service clubs. It includes service clubs. It includes schools, colleges, university, other place of learning or training, correctional institutions, or the lockup. It includes places of safety for children, nursing home, medical facility, psychiatric facility. And employers must make reasonable efforts, therefore, to ensure that their employees are not sexually harassed at work. A person in charge of an institution, whether it's a school, university, medical facility, service club, the person in charge must make reasonable efforts to ensure that the members of the institution are not sexually harassed. Each employer or person in charge of the institution is to issue a policy statement, which is what I spoke about earlier, that speaks to how it is that the whole sexual harassment issue arises. Now, what should you do if you have been sexually harassed? Lodge a sexual harassment claim in writing with the employer, if it's a workplace, and in an institution, lodge a sexual harassment claim in writing with the person in charge of the institution. So note, the complaint has to be made in writing. Cannot be an oral complaint. The other thing to bear in mind is that gone are the days, ladies and gentlemen, where a sexual harassment complaint is made and it's swept under the carpet. And that's the end of the matter. Now, if that happens, the reality is that the complaint can bypass management, bypass HR, which may feel beholden to management or to the president, bypass management, bypass the board, and go straight to the Sexual Harassment Tribunal. And I'm going to speak a little bit more about the Sexual Harassment Tribunal later on. Now, once the employer gets a complaint, within 2 days, that complaint should be acknowledged as having been received, and the worker or the person against whom the complaint has been made should be advised that this complaint has been made and the circumstances surrounding the complaint. In addition to that, you must commence an investigation into the particulars of the sexual harassment claim within 14 days of the complaint having been made. So it's very time sensitive, ladies and gentlemen. No long-term business. So you're not going to have what happened with Sophia Williams or whatever her name is in the recent US elections, who was coming to talk about a sexual harassment complaint against Donald Trump in terms of him groping her, where she said she was girlfriend with Jeffrey Epstein. And they were at Trump Tower, and this is what happened. So not going to have that sort of situation where she's complaining about that having taken place from 1990. No, those who want that. This is a very fast-moving, fast-paced process. Now, when you are going to make a complaint to the Sexual Harassment Tribunal, it has to be made in writing, and the tribunal will conduct investigations and determine how to proceed with the matter. The tribunal has the power to hear and determine a complaint made by a worker that the worker's employer has failed to act in accordance with the act. So I pause for a quick icebreaker here, and you can tell me who can unscramble number one. You can speak this into the microphone now. What's number one? Spoke about it a while ago.
Allegations.
Allegations, that's correct. Number two.
Suggestive.
That's correct. Number three.
Lodge.
Lodge, that's correct. Four.
It's missing a G.
Tribunal.
It's not missing a G.
Lodge. Oh, lodge, as in
Lodge.
the lodge. Got it.
Yeah, lodge the complaint. Number four is?
Tribunal.
Tribunal, brilliant. And five?
Complaint.
Masterful, masterful complaint. So there you are, allegation suggestive, lodge, tribunal, complaint. All right.
One quick question, Andre. You keep saying the worker. So does that exclude consultants?
Yes. Worker is widely defined. Brilliant question. Widely defined in the Act. Worker includes contractor, consultant, subcontractor, domestic worker, student in training, student gaining work experience, intern, and volunteer. Yes. So somebody coming to work for the summer holidays is caught by this. Of course, the act does not apply, I should tell you, to persons under 16, because we have a Child Care and Protection Act that deals with minors 16 and under. But it would apply to a 17-year-old, it would apply to an 18-year-old, a summer worker from university, and also it applies to clients. So if I, in my law firm, have a situation where one of my workers is harassing a client, that client could lodge a complaint, and vice versa. You could have a situation where a client of mine is harassing one of my workers. That too is something that you could complain about. But I want to tell you more than that. You have it applying not only vertically, but horizontally. So you can have one peer against another. One co-worker complaining against another. You can also have a situation where there is a complaint by an employer. Listen me good. An employer complaining that she's being harassed by her junior worker. The worker who she employs or who he employs. Or a supervisor complaining that the supervisee is doing the harassment. So all of the act speaks to all of this. So quick one for you. Can a wink amount to sexual harassment? A wink alone. Type it in the chat. What do you think? A wink alone. No other thing but the wink. No gestures with your hand. No movement of your lips or your tongue. Just simply a wink. Yes or no? Some say yes. Michelle Desmond says yes. Michelle Smith says yes. Newton, IPP Newton says no. Yes, says Claudine. Yes, says Claudette. Thank you for those. Yes, says Samson. Well, it's interesting that you say that. Celia Earle says yes. All right. Now, I had a big discussion with my staff about this the other day. It was a big topic at lunch, whether or not a wink alone, nothing else. And it was quite funny because I think we came down on the side that a wink by itself would be difficult to constitute sexual harassment because that would by itself, no other thing, you're not touching any part of your body, you're not doing anything, but just the wink alone. And it was funny because when I've done this presentation in person, some people don't even know how to wink. People close both eyes when they're winking as well, which is not a wink, of course. And so I was of the view, we came to the view at work that it wouldn't really be sexual harassment, but I'm not the authority on this. And the reality, if somebody feels uncomfortable and feels that this is an issue, Beverly, I see your hand, but I'm going to take the questions a little later on. Then it may be that could constitute harassment. So in the act, though, it speaks to winks and says it may be considered an example of a nonverbal or gestural harassment, depending on the context. All right, so getting, I think, a little heated here now. Can emojis amount to sexual harassment? So on your screens, you have an eggplant, you have a peach, and you have water droplets. Can they amount to sexual harassment if I send this to Claudette? All right, Claudette, I send this to you. That's your Claudette Walker. So I send it to you, Claudette Walker. The emoji on the extreme left. IPP Newton says yes. Michael says definitely. Gordon Riley says yes without context. Yes, Monique. Yes, Chris. Yes, Claudette, very uncomfortable. It's an eggplant. What's wrong with an eggplant? All right, look at the second one. That's a peach. Is there a problem if I send a peach to you, Dorrit? DP Dorrit? Say for sure.
Of course, of course. If you send me a peach, believe me, it will make me very uncomfortable, along with everything else.
Why? Why? Why?
You know, eating a peach or could suggest something sexual. You know how people when you eat the peach and
about the shape.
I'm not eating the peach. All right, I'm just sending you the peach that is on the screen in my WhatsApp.
But why are you sending me a peach? Why don't you send me a thumbs up?
I may think you have a peach of a personality. You have a peach of a personality, Dorrit.
Okay.
All right, you know, you are a peach in the organization.
Oh, all right.
And I'm sending it to you this morning in recognition of that. What's wrong with that? Well, the third one, water droplets. Anything wrong with that? Beverly? Beverly Thompson, who has a problem with the look of the peach. How the peach look like a peach? What do you mean the look of the peach? What's wrong with the look of the peach? Beverly? Not here in Bev. What? I don't see anything wrong with the look of the peach. The peach, that's how a peach looks. That's how we know it's a peach and not a banana. Harleen says, looks like a bottom. Yes, Harleen, it may look like a bottom, but the point is it's a peach. The bottom,
I just got on.
Yeah, the bottom doesn't have that little stem and the green leaves at the top, do they? A bottom has that? All breasts squeezed together. Harleen, how you going to breasts? We're talking about the beach. How you going to break so? All right. Anyway, what do the droplets mean? Droplets. Droplets to the extreme right. Any problems there?
Sweat. Perspiration.
DLG Keith says water could suggest rain weather outside. By the way, Harleen says the peach also looks like a vagina. So when you go, Harleen, to Hilo supermarket to pick up fruits like the peach, you're thinking about vagina. Girthlin Holman, my good friend. What about the water? You're saying Girthlin? Something wrong there with the water droplets? Anyway, in the interest of time, let me move on. The eggplant, people have complained that this represents the male organ, the penis. That the middle peach represents either the rear end, the bottom, or the vagina. And that the water droplets represent the orgasm. In fact, some people have told me in presentations that you can put eggplant, then put a plus sign, and then get the peach, and then put equal, and then get the water droplets. But the point is, and why I'm bringing it to you now, is that some people need to understand that what you can have happening is that people are feeling harassed by this. And that's why I brought this up here, so that we are aware and that we are very careful what we do, because some people may be offended by it. Now, does grow up in a female for less than 10 seconds amount to sexual harassment? What do you think? Less than 10 seconds. You grow up a female. In the chat, some say yes. So DP Stewart says yes. And Charm Yusim says yes. IPP Newton, yes. Desmond Bachelor, yes. Okay. Well, in 2022 April, a 66-year-old caretaker at a school saw a 17-year-old female student going up the steps, and he went behind her, placed his hand inside her pants, and groped her buttocks. Naturally, she complained. It went to court, and the Italian court dismissed the complaint on the basis that, as far as they were concerned, it was less than 10 seconds and hence did not amount to a breach. Less than 10 seconds. Of course, Italians were furious, and this set off a trend of videos where people film videos and they time themselves for 10 seconds to demonstrate just how long 10 seconds really amount to. And so this is what these videos will depict. So take a look.
Way down we go, so way down we go.
Sono passati meno di 10 secondi, se non è una molestia questa, boh. Ma soprattutto chi li conta? C'è sta Dobby l'elfo col cronometro ogni volta? Io non lo so.
Mi hai palpata? Guarda che è reato, ti denuncio.
Un attimo solo.
Che devo aspettare?
9 secondi. Non è reato.
Ah, sì, scusami. Sotto i 10 secondi non è reato. Hai ragione.
So there you have it. And it ended up being that of course, the whole country was irate. And I've already seen your answers that you are of the view that that would certainly be offensive. And I agree with you. But the man was acquitted in Italy. Strange, eh? Now, Luis Rubiales, former head of the Spanish Soccer Federation, kissed the captain of the Spanish team. Follow me now. This was last year. Spain won the Women's FIFA World Cup finals, beating England. First time ever. And it happened under the watch of the head of the Spanish Football Soccer Federation, the equivalent of our captain Horace Borrell, Luis Rubiales. And he was so happy and ecstatic that they won that when congratulating them, he held the captain and gave her a kiss on her lips. Very short kiss. It's very quick. So I'm going to show you 4 times so that you can see what happened. This is 1. And you tell me whether or not you think it's offensive sexual harassment or a sexual assault. This is 1.
Dar de este maravilloso deporte, dedicándole ese título de campeona de este.
2.
Dar de este maravilloso deporte, dedicándole ese título de campeona de este.
3.
Dar de este maravilloso deporte, dedicándole ese título de campeona de este.
4.
De este maravilloso deporte, dedicándole ese título de campeona de este.
So, what do you think? Sexual harassment or not? So, past district trustee Ralston says yes.
Wouldn't it be considered cultural for them to?
Would it consider what?
Cultural. So in their culture, it's normal for them to, it's like a greeting. So the fact that the one is a moment of excitement.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that you asked that. But you know what happened? First of all, he lost his position as president. FIFA removed him. So he's no longer head. And secondly, he is in the Spanish criminal court, facing criminal court proceedings now for sexual assault. So this is something that you have to bear in mind. Remember, this is not Italian. He is, in fact, Spanish. And the question is, what is going to happen to him? Personally, my opinion is that based on when you see it and you saw how her reaction was, she didn't look like somebody who considered that unwanted. But the reality is, this is what he's facing. So it demonstrates why we have to be so careful. There was an egregious tweet, this one in Jamaica, where a team member at a financial institution, which shall remain nameless, going on a night run for Digicel, tweeted this: "I'm about to go out this night run and rape Smarty daughter." That's actually what he tweeted. See the tweet there? And he was fired for this tweet, separated from his job. Now, the post was indicative of criminal intent and was therefore a trigger for persons who've been sexually assaulted. There is a sexual harassment register, and the Act speaks about this. So when a sexual harassment claim is made, the register has a notation of who made the complaint, who the complaint was made against, the nature of the complaint, the date on which the incident is alleged to have occurred, and what happened. So this register has to be kept by every organization where there is any complaint of sexual harassment. You have to keep it. Now, it's dangerous, and many persons have written on this already, because can you imagine, President Stephen, if a complaint is made against a worker and is dismissed after the investigation's internal? The details made against and what the complaint related to, etc., remain in this register, remain there for 8 years, even if you are found innocent, not guilty of what it is that the complaint was. So people have complained about it. Now, the framers of the act would say to you, there's no problem because the contents of the register have to be kept confidential, and you can't speak about it elsewhere. But you know what confidentiality means in Jamaica, ladies and gentlemen? Confidentiality means, Donna, I'm going to tell you something that I just heard from Josina. But don't tell anybody, you know. And Donna says, no problem. And I tell her. As soon as I hang up the phone, Donna takes up the phone and calls Stuart and says, Stuart, Andre just told me something a while ago. But don't tell anybody, you know. Well, that's confidentiality in Jamaica. Once one person knows, it's at risk of going elsewhere. That's the reality. But there it is. We have a register that speaks to that. Now, final area I want to focus on.
Question.
Let me come to the question. Let me come to the question right at the end.
All
Because
right.
I'm trying to manage the time carefully. And then, but I will just write the question for me and make a note of it so I can deal with it right in the Q&A, which is coming up now. So the Sexual Harassment Tribunal is a tribunal consisting of 14 members appointed by the minister. It is the only area of the law where I know where you have the law stipulating that at least one half must be female. I don't know of any other law in Jamaica like that. That stipulates that it must consist of at least a half of them being female. There's a chairperson who must be a lawyer and 2 deputy chairpersons. Note my language, specifically chosen. They don't call them chairmen, they call them chairpersons in the act. So chairperson and 2 deputies, all lawyers, and they sit in panels of 3. Each panel that is sitting to hear a matter should have at least the chairman or one of the deputy chairpersons. All right, so it should be at least a chairperson or one of the deputy chairpersons. And what should also happen is that you must have both genders represented at any hearing. So bear that in mind. It is in existence. The current chairperson is retired Justice of Appeal, Mr. Justice Algernon Smith, and the entire tribunal, in fact, has been appointed. I note one of them is online with us this evening. I won't identify her because I don't know if she wishes to be identified as such. But I know that she's with us this evening. So the tribunal is in fact appointed and they will be hearing matters. Now you might wonder, what are some of the sanctions that the tribunal can give? Well, first and foremost, if you do anything to obstruct an investigation from one of the officers, then that's a sanction of $1 million if you are found guilty. There are persons called authorized officers, and that's a sanction. Also, if it is that you do something where, for example, you lie to the tribunal. For example, your complaint wasn't true. It was a lie. That too can land you with $1 million fine. It is an offense. The tribunal also has power to award money. So if they feel that the feelings and the way in which you have conducted yourself has caused some emotional hurt, distress, or humiliation, then in such circumstances, they can award compensation up to $900,000. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, $900,000. And it can be sued for in the parish court as a civil debt. So they have powers and you need to bear that in mind. So I spoke about sexual harassment and sexual advances, the forms of sexual harassment. Spoke about an example at UE, the understanding of the act and how it is that you make the complaint, the steps to take. If you're sexually harassed, remember you put that complaint in writing, and how it is that you go about making the sexual harassment complaint. And so now is the time for question and answers. I'm going to hand over to Chairman Stewart, who is marshalling, not Chairman Stewart, sorry, club meeting Stewart.
Okay, Andre.
marshalling. Yes.
Well, thanks again for that really far-reaching presentation. But I need to take exercise the privilege then and explain my no answer. Why in the first part? Because it seemed to have been set in an environment where these were people on the street. It didn't seem to be set in an environment where it was a workplace. And why I said no is because who you're gonna complain to? You know, because if it is not, and where are the policies? There are no policies that can govern something that is not within an organization.
Quite so.
So that was the basis for my no.
All right, and let me just endorse what you said there. I'm glad you raised it, Stuart, and clarified for us, because the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, this act does not apply to what we call street harassment. So the regular person walking on the road, and you say, hey, baby doll, your body a gash. or give me a turn off of your turntable, or a struggle off of your frame, and all of these creative statements. Those are not actionable under this statute. This is dealing with a workplace environment, a landlord and tenant situation, an institution, including service club, church, and organizations like past student associations, etc. So that's what this act is dealing with, not the regular street catcalling and whistling and so on. All right?
Okay, good.
So,
sorry, you're gonna say something else?
Yeah, so I just say, I know you are marshalling this part. I say Beverly Thompson.
Yeah. Before I go to Beverly though, let me just throw this in and then I go to Beverly. It seems as if what we have is a Jamaican act, right? And I'm sure there are, well, I'm not aware that there are any international standards in relation to sexual harassment. There would be commonality where generally most people might agree on a particular act. But, you know, for example, I've always heard that in French and to a certain France and also to a certain extent Italy, certain practices that even in Jamaica we would frown on, or women would resent, you know, pinching up people's bottom and so on, is perfectly acceptable in some cultures. So I'm assuming then that each country that has any kind of policy or act would have separate things that are not necessarily common to what we are accustomed to. Would you comment on that?
Yes, I would agree with you wholeheartedly there, Stuart. It is cultural to a great extent. And so when a case is being made, whether within the organization or at the sexual harassment tribunal, if you end up there, that is a case where you are going to have to demonstrate that it is not an unwelcome sexual advance. And the reason why you have the panel in the way in which it is constituted is for that particular situation, so that you will get the views of the females and you get the views of the males on the panel, and they have some experience in these matters. And so it is really to convince them that culturally, what you do, or when you hug somebody, you were just giving them a warm embrace because you were congratulating. I mean, just as we look at the Louis Rubiales situation, remember when Jamaica qualified for World Cup in 1998, France, I was at that match against Mexico at the National Stadium. We declared a public holiday. The next day, the Prime Minister at the time, Patterson, declared a public holiday. That was our reaction to making it to our first final. We didn't win the final, you know. So when Louis Rubiales was overjoyed and ecstatic, this is when he won the final and beat, you know, there's this competition in Europe. So Spain beat England. And so, but But Stuart and ladies and gentlemen, the problem is you can have a situation where people are offended by it and you find yourselves in trouble.
Okay, let's go to Bev. Bev, DLG Bev, your time.
Yes, fine. Thank you so much. Casey, I wanted to find out, I don't know if you had addressed it, I think maybe partially, about the time in which someone lodges a complaint about some harassment.
Okay.
I've seen cases like for years.
Yes.
Years, 20.
Let me see if I can help you with that, Beverly. So what happened is that our act prescribes generally at certain sections of the act where there's a breach that you have 12 months to make a complaint in relation to that. So if, for example, there is an issue in terms of the entity not having a sexual harassment policy in place, that's a 12-month complaint. You have 12 months to bring that. But others, for example, are 6 years. So a general, the fact that somebody touched you and you didn't like it, you have 6 years to bring that complaint, for example, to the tribunal. 6 years. And bear in mind that even though you are given 6 years, the tribunal has the capacity, the discretion to extend the 6-year period in an appropriate case, and the act sets out what are the appropriate circumstances. For example, that the person did not feel that they could have brought the complaint, or they were intimidated by their employer and they didn't want to bring the complaint at the time. So that's a justifiable reason where that could happen. All right? So I just want to say that to you. And let me just make a contrast quickly. Under Jamaican law with sexual offenses, and you know we have the sexual offenses of rape, incest, buggery, sex with someone under 16, and indecent assault, those 5 offenses. There's no time limit. Let me just say that very quickly. That's not sexual harassment now. I'm talking about sexual offenses. So I want you to be aware of that. Somebody, and that's why we have had situations in Jamaica where people at the age of 90 have been convicted of rape that they committed 30, 60 years ago and ended up in prison. So I just want to make sure that as we're talking about time, you're aware of it. Yes,
okay.
Thank you so much.
There are a couple hands up. But what I got a little confused about a while ago, Andre, is that you had mentioned a 14-day period. So can you distinguish between the 14-day period and what you're saying about 6 years?
Yes.
I didn't understand.
Yes. When the 14-day and the 2-day period has to do with when the actual complaint is made. So when John or Mary make a complaint to their office in writing about a sexual harassment incident, once they make the complaint in writing, the person who has custody of it, usually the HR practitioner in the office, must acknowledge that complaint having been made within 2 days and must notify the person against whom the complaint is made within 2 days. And they must commence the investigation of the complaint within 14 days.
Okay. Okay.
So that's what that 14 days is.
Okay.
The other question that Ben was asking about was how long you have to bring the complaint in the first place. And the general complaint is 6 days.
Okay. Catherine, is it Savage? I couldn't make out the last name. It's a little bit. But I think you know who you are. You have your hand up. Catherine?
Is it Catherine or Carleen?
Oh, it's Carleen, right.
Carleen Sigrid.
Carleen Sigrid, yeah.
Okay, got you.
And I'm regional director. Good evening to you.
Good evening to you, Casey, and good night to everyone. Thank you for having me. I have a question for you, Mr. Earle, and it has to do with the sexual offenders register. And so I understand that is not about sexual harassment. No, we've now moved into rape, carnal abuse, and that kind of a thing. The question is, does the perpetrator, the accused, and in many instances, persons who are tasked with the responsibility of care and protection of children have to be found guilty in the courts of the charges of sexual abuse for such person to find themselves on the sexual offenders register?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay, because
in fact, the nomenclature speaks to that. The fact that you are saying offender, and you can't have an offender unless the person has been found guilty.
Right. But that is one of the challenges we have in our sector. We find that persons, because say for example, so you already declare who I am. So I'm from education. So you have, say, a teacher or guidance counselor, an adult who have the responsibility to protect and care for children because of the nature of their job, but they sometimes act in these ways. A school board decides that this person should leave a job so that they don't have to take them through the process of firing them. Because you know that process sometimes can be lengthy, Mr. Earle. The person moves from a parish, say St. Thomas, person comes to St. Anne, and there is no way for the new employers to know that this person committed this egregious act elsewhere. And then sometimes they keep just hopping about the parishes, moving across regions, across Jamaica, because there's no way, because the students, after they report it to, say, CPFSA, the SOCA, and the other agencies, sometimes, I don't know, it just goes up in the air. It starts off very, very active, and then after maybe a few interviews, the students and their parents decide that they can't be bothered. And
not to put you, not to encourage Director Carlin, but just to say, in interest of time, that what I would say about that is that if there's no offense, there's no offense. Many people go forward and don't pursue complaints for whatever reason. We can't force them. So if there is no complaint, there is no complaint. And under this act, the Sexual Harassment Protection and Prevention Act, if you get all the way to the tribunal and the complainant decides for any reason that they don't want to proceed, that's the end of the matter. You can't force them. So it's one of the situations that we have. All right. But you and I can speak much more on that, Director, Madam Director Carly. I look forward to that opportunity.
Soon.
Okay. I see another hand up. We're getting very close to wrapping it up. Bridget, Kiwanis Club of New Kingston. Go right ahead, Bridget.
Thank you. Casey, quick question. Does the act extend to persons, Jamaicans or non-nationals, coming into the island, or Jamaicans returning to Jamaica? Persons who are on a register.
Thank you very much for that question, Bridget. Once it is that you are in any of the spaces that we spoke of, then yes, it doesn't matter whether you are an expat or returning resident or so on. Remember, we're not talking now, Bridget, about street harassment, where it's just a casual thing. You see somebody at the movies and you say something to them, or you walk them up in the stadium and you say something, or you're traveling on the bus. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about workplace situations, correctional institutions, police, domestic workers. Let me remind us about that. So that happens at home as well. And those are the kinds of situations that we are talking about. So it doesn't matter whether you're expat or not. Yeah.
Okay. I think there's one question in the chat which I'm going to read, and then that will be the final one.
All right.
Let me just read it. It says, is the tribunal curtailing an individual's ability to sue the offending party for more than $900,000. Can you bypass the tribunal panel and go straight to the court?
It is a very good question. And so what essentially is being asked there is whether or not you can pursue, you can bypass, or is it a prerequisite for you to exhaust your remedies through the tribunal first? I would say it depends on the nature of the circumstances, because if it is that the person feels aggrieved to the point where they can't function and they have been terminated and have lost their job for whatever reason, they may feel that this requires a higher hand. As it is now, if you go to the court could well say, why have you come to us first? Exhaust your remedies, and if you are dissatisfied, then you come up to us. But right now where we are, it is what it is. The tribunal has this jurisdiction of 900,000 only, maximum. And it is a civil debt which can be collected in the parish court. And if you are unhappy with the decision of the tribunal, which by the way can include an order that you, for example, seek counseling as a reasonable way of resolving the matter, or it could include an order that you should take steps to ensure that there is no repeat of this sexual harassment, that the conduct ceases, plus the compensation order. But whatever it is that the tribunal orders, if it is that the complainant is unhappy, that recourse at that stage is to the Supreme Court. So the short answer to the question is that I believe that the court is going to push you to make your complaint in the usual way, which is to exhaust first the internal mechanisms of your particular organization. If at the end of that you are dissatisfied, then escalate it to the tribunal. And if you are still dissatisfied with their decision, then escalate it to the court. And I don't think, for the person who asked that question, that it's likely that you may find any of these going to court. Because anybody who has any, like Sharon used him on this platform, will tell you, and some of my other colleagues, Keon Green and so on, will tell you, if you try to bring anything in court, you're talking 8-10 years. So that doesn't make sense as an option. It suits you to go to the tribunal where you have the 14 members and you can get your matter resolved as fast as possible. I mean, they haven't started to do any work yet, but we certainly hope that they will have work that they are going to be dispatching in a very efficient manner.
Okay, thank you for that. Time to ask our DP Chris Robinson to move the vote of thanks.
Well,
DP
just before Chris does it, I want to share these numbers with you, Stuart. Helpful numbers. Victim Services Division of the Ministry of Justice, 876-946-0663. And the email is there. Minister of Culture and Gender, 876-978-7654. And CISOCA, the Center for Investigation of Sexual Offenses and Child Abuse, 876-926-4079. And apart from thanking you for your participation, leaving you with a quote from none other than Martin Luther King Jr. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. And so the advice given to us is that there's no need to remain silent anymore. You can speak up. The act is there to protect you and ensure that you do not have this hostile environment within which to work. Over to you.
Go ahead.
Over to you, Stuart.
Okay. And let me just remind those who are here that this is being streamed live on YouTube, so you can always pick it up on YouTube to watch for those references, those reference numbers that Andre provided. So it's at KCOK meaning Kiwanis Club of Kingston YouTube channel. Okay, time for DP Chris. Your time.
All right. Thank you, DP Stewart. And let me also, on behalf of President Stephen and the members of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston, and certainly on behalf of all those who are online this evening, just thank Mr. Earle, for his very insightful presentation. When I saw the lineup and I see he'll be introduced by somebody from Rabalak, then I hear that you DP Stewart is also from that institution on Red Hills Road. And I'm saying, so where do I fit in all of this, in terms of Mr. Earle? And then I said, aha, but Mr. Earle's father was my very good friend. Those of us who were in the credit union movement would know of Joe Earle and the great contributions he made. So in that respect, I am thankful that I have been asked to give the vote of thanks to Mr. Earle for his presentation here this evening. As we listened, and if we listened carefully, we would have understood that this sexual harassment policy is a serious policy, and especially in the Jamaican context, where we tend to take a lot of things for granted. We could find ourselves, and certainly as more and more persons become aware of it, we could find ourselves and the tribunal having a lot of work to do. Certainly, we know that it is not necessarily the person who was harassed who needs to make a complaint, but someone who feels uncomfortable with the fact that they saw the harassment taking place can make the complaint. So it is not just what happens between the two individuals, but a third party can also be involved. And these are very important things which I think all of us need to know. And so as we go forward, we can be careful in terms of how we interact with each other as individuals. So, Mr. Earle, I know that you are shortly needed somewhere else. So let me again, on behalf of all present on this platform here, thank you most sincerely for your presentation. I know that, I'm a member of a school board. And when I first heard it, I said, what? I mean, the point is, sometimes we take things for granted. And so I said to my principal, I trust that we are looking at this thing very carefully because anything can happen. So on behalf of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston, we have a certificate of appreciation here for you, which we will ensure that you get so that you can hang it somewhere in your office as an indication that you were at the Kiwanis Club of Kingston, and we thank you most sincerely for being here tonight.
Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It was my sincere pleasure. I enjoyed being with you. I did put the contact information in case you want to continue this discussion another time. My email address in the chat and my mobile number in the chat as well. So you can take note of that. Mobile is 876-382-9035. And I wish you all the best as you continue to do this great work as volunteers. Amazing work that you do. And I encourage you and commend you as you do that. So thanks for that very kind vote of thanks. Chris.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, DP Chris, and also thank you, Casey Andre, for your presentation. I just added my 2 cents to it. It was very informative and insightful, as mentioned earlier. Glad you could take the time out at this time to share with us.
Thank you. And with your leave, President, may I be allowed to withdraw?
Yes, you're granted leave.
I am much obliged, sir.
Thank
Good
you.
night, ladies and gentlemen.
Let me just apologize. My camera wasn't working. I can't figure out why it didn't come on. But anyway, there's been another time. Thank you very much, Andre.
All right, my brother. All the best.
Okay.
Thank you again. Kiwanians, we're running a bit late, so I'm going to ask at this time if for a member to move that we extend the meeting time by 5 minutes so that we can conclude our meeting.
So moved, President.
And seconded by who?
DP Chris. Okay,
DP Chris. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to move to notices and announcements and interclub opportunities. We have quite a number of clubs here, and this is going to be our last online meeting for this year. So I'm going to take the opportunity to give the other clubs a chance to share what they're doing for their Christmas activities or in the season. But first of all, I'll ask DLG Willie to share with us the Kingston Club's activities over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, President Stephen. I have been advised that the funeral service for late past director Easton McKinley is being held at the Torrington United Church on Saturday, December 28th at 9 a.m. That will be followed by burial at the family plot in Santa Cruz. The family has requested the club or somebody from the club to do a 3-minute tribute. That's the time allotted to the club on the program. This morning I circulated the latest edition of K-Ray, which is produced by the ECNC, which contains some very useful information. And I just remind members of the upcoming ECNC District Convention being held in Niagara Falls from May 29th to the 31st. Registration opens in early January, and they give a website, www.ecc2025.org. And a reminder, members, dues by now still have been paid. There are still a number of members who have not paid their dues, and hopefully they will come in before the end of December. And lastly, just a reminder, President Stevens spoke to it. Tickets are now available for our next fundraising event, which is Basil Dawkins' new play, First Lady, on Saturday, January 4th at the Little Theater. Cost $3,500. Tickets are available through me. You can call me at any time or just email me. In terms of interclubs, I will circulate schedule tomorrow insofar as the interclubs for the rest of this week and early next week. I think that's all for now.
Okay.
President Stephen, over to you.
Thank you, DLG Willie. Kingston Club members, please note those activities. Also have a number of Kiwanian clubs here, so we're inviting anybody who would like to share their activities at this time. Please just open your microphone and indicate.
President Stephen, may I just interrupt? I'm sorry.
Sure.
I should have mentioned that on Christmas Day, we'll be caroling, as usual, at the Osenham Home, as you mentioned.
Yes.
And the Salvation Army for the nest. This begins at 9. So any club who may be interested or many members from any other club who would like to join us on that morning are free to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's an annual activity that Kingston Club does with the Salvation Army. So please reach out if you'd like to be part of that initiative. Any other club having any announcements at this time? Going once, I'm sure. We still have quite a few people here. Go ahead.
This is President Ashana from the Kiwanis
Hello,
Club.
President Ashana. Season's greetings. Go ahead.
We are our bonfire this evening, tomorrow evening, sorry, at 6:30. It's online. It's a Christmas bonfire. So you come out and you share your own Christmas experiences. We have our special guest speaker coming to speak to us as well, and we'd love for a lot of you to join. I expect to see some persons from Kiwanis Club of Kingston. So I'm taking your commitment, President, taking your commitment, DLG Willie. Thank you so much. It's much appreciated. Yeah, so I see you there.
Okay, President Ashana and the rest of Kiwanis Club of Charlton, Alexandra, we will definitely try and support for sure. Any other Kiwanis club have any announcements at this time? Going once? Going twice? If not, I'll just take the opportunity to remind everybody who may have come in late that remember next week. Yes, hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Good night.
Good night, Olive. Go ahead. Hello.
Olive, not Norton.
We heard you. We heard you.
We can hear you.
No, this is I didn't ask to speak.
Oh, but your microphone.
Well, you are. Okay, I'll mute you.
Okay, I was saying, thank you, DP Stu. I was saying that, as mentioned earlier, some of you may have missed it, that next week, Tuesday, is going to be Christmas Eve. We've made a decision not to have a meeting on Christmas Eve. People are going to be busy doing their various activities and with their families. And the following week is also New Year's Eve. So the next meeting of Kiwanis Club of Kingston on this forum will be Tuesday, January 7th. And obviously, we will do our normal announcements and tell you what that activity will be. But until then, I will take this opportunity on behalf of Kiwanis Club of Kingston to extend to everybody individually and collectively with your families all the best for the season. May it be peaceful, blessed, and safe. As we go into this crazy season somewhat, we should not forget what is important in life, and as Kiwanians, our duty and our civic duty to those who are less fortunate, especially at this time of year. So I extend to you a special warm greetings from Kiwanis Club of Kingston and from myself as we embark in the Christmas season. As DLG Willie mentioned, we do have some activities going on, so we will still be around, and please stay tuned to our social media channels, as well as talking to the various members to find out what's going on until we start the new year. And wishing everybody a positive and fruitful 2025 when it comes around. So unless there's
Thank
any
you,
other...
President Stephen, and the very same to you, my friend.
Thank you, DP Chris. Duly noted. So on that note, and I should say that if after the meeting is over, if persons wish to continue online, we will have music and we are open to discussion particularly about a lot of the topics that were discussed earlier with KC, King's Counsel Andre Earle. If you'd like to talk about it, the microphones will be open and we will continue after the meeting. But on this note, I would like to extend a toast, if you have a glass, to Kiwanis International and to Jamaica Land We Love. Cheers, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thank you all for coming out this evening. Take care. I now terminate this meeting of Kiwanis Club of Kingston, but as usual, please stay on for more fun and fellowship.